Greetings, Earthlings and fellow MGTOW. I hope everybody is having a fantastic Tuesday. It's a little dreary out where I am. Hope you guys are all doing well. I realized after shooting my inaugural video that I didn't unpack as much as I would have liked to have and should have with regards to what I mean by going monk. And I plan to do that in this video, and I also want to unpack MGTOW in a general sense as I understand it. So that's what I will do here. So for those of you who don't know, or for those of you who may somehow have just stumbled across this video, MGTOW is an acronym for Men Going Their Own Way, MGTOW. There's a lot of debate and conversation and occasionally lively discussion with regards to what MGTOW is, what MGTOW means out there within the MGTOW community, and a lot of misunderstanding about it in the public at large for those who have heard of it, who do have some idea with, or who are somewhat informed, even just peripherally, on MGTOW. So, MGTOW. What is MGTOW? Well, if you take 10 MGTOW and line them up and ask them, you might get 10 or 11 different answers. But as I understand it, what MGTOW is to me is it's not so much a belief system, it's not so much an ideology, it's not a religion, it's not a male equivalent to feminism, and I will do some videos in the future on that and dispelling that myth. But for me, it is a way of life. It is quite literally, as the website points out, it is a statement of self-ownership. Taking responsibility for your own life, for my own life, and for not having that defined not just by women, but by any external forces, whether that's an employer, whether that's a professor or teacher if you're at school, whether that's a friend or a coworker. It is you, me, all of us taking ownership of ourselves in the pursuit of the type of life that we want, types of lives that we want. So, for me, I'm not terribly concerned with the label, as it were. I will say, just for those who may not be as familiar with it, with MGTOW, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of content out there. Many people have different perspectives. I think there are some common points of agreement, and I'm willing to correct myself. I'm willing to correct myself if this isn't accurate, but it seems like, from my observations, that the primary things, ideas that men going their own way agree on are: don't get married, don't live with a woman, and don't have children with a woman, or don't put yourself in a position to be taken advantage of by a woman financially, emotionally, or any other way, by a woman through the use of this state as a club in the fulfillment of those ends for her. So, essentially, don't date, don't get married, and don't put yourself in a position to get fucked over. That's really about it. Some MGTOW date short term. Some MGTOW have longer term arrangements. Some MGTOW have casual flings, fuck buddies. There's a wide spectrum of of men who are going their own way, there are a lot of men going their own way who approach dating women relationships differently, right? So the main points of agreement, or at least mutual understanding of risks, common understanding of risks, is not getting married, not living with a woman, and not putting yourself in a position to become a wage slave or a slave to the state. I will also be doing some videos on that moving forward. But that's about it. It's not a movement, based on hatred for women. It's not a religion. It's not a cult. For me, and I'm speaking just for me, it is a way of life. So I'm less concerned with the label than I am with the application of the principles that I've discovered in my life. So there's that. On this spectrum, if you will, there are also MGTOW who have decided to avoid dating and who have decided to avoid unnecessary contact with women in their lives. This is the category that I fall in, and this is what I mean by having gone monk. So, for me, I do not date. I don't really have much of an interest in dating. I have no intentions ever again to get married. I would put a rusted, tetanus-laden needle dipped in Ebola and swine flu through my urethra before I would do that. But so on the dating front, I just am not interested. One of the things that I have found is that I do have a lot more free time. I have a lot more money, and perhaps most importantly, I have a substantial amount of sanity that I just didn't have when I was married, that I slowly lost over time while I was married. That is the pinnacle return on investment for my decision to go monk. I have no problem with other MGTOW, other men that do want to date. I have no problem with any of that. Whether you want a one-night stand or you want an ongoing arrangement of sorts, that's your business. As long as, I would simply urge caution with regards to making sure that you don't put yourself in a position to get fucked over. I think that it's a very risky endeavor for a number of reasons, but I also understand the biological imperatives of men, and I understand what it's like to have a sex drive. So I don't fault anybody for that. I've just decided in my own life that that's not something that's particularly palatable to me. So that's what I mean when I say that I have gone monk. I do have a few women in my life, in my social sphere, and I have some minor interactions with. They're good people. I have a couple of closer friends who are women, but I'm very open and upfront about my MGTOW identification. It's never been an issue or anything like that. So, but beyond that, I pretty much just don't have a whole hell of a lot to do with them. I don't. So, I think that I think it's important for me to spell out again where I'm coming from and what I mean by monk. So, I'm not living in an enclave somewhere. I have a very wide and diverse and loving and supportive social network, even. So I have some family that I love and care about a lot. So I have those networks in place. But that's what I mean when I say. Well, that's what I mean by monk. There's this really kind of, in my opinion, silly notion of levels of MGTOW, which just absolutely baffles my mind. But, I look at, there's the whole level 1 through 5 thing. Okay. If that's important to you, in the words of Pope Francis, who am I to judge, right? But it seems a little bit on the silly side to me. But for the purposes of common language, monk is a pretty loaded term. And so I wanted to spell out what I meant by that term. And so that's kind of the perspective that I'm bringing to this channel when I address issues as they pertain specifically to MGTOW and broader cultural issues. I'm going to be looking at them more through the lens of a monk perspective, because that's, again, how I see the world. So yeah, I think that this will suffice for kind of a point of clarification as to where I'm coming from. And I've got some ideas for videos floating around that I need to kind of hammer out. I'm doing these things unscripted because I think I like being conversational. I don't like having to stick to a script. I don't need a teleprompter in order to communicate. So I'll take the occasional errors or having to correct myself along the way. I'll take that over doing a scripted video. Not that there aren't advantages at times to that. So anyway, guys, if you have any questions or comments or have any particular topics that you'd like a monk's perspective on, feel free to comment below. And you guys have a great rest of the day, and you'll be hearing from me again soon. Take it easy.